Okay guys, I think it's important for everybody to learn how to inject IV medication for your horse. So consult your veterinarian if you do not know how to do so and have them walk you through it. But I am a nurse and I've been doing this for years and years, so I have a good bit of experience. I can give you a little bit of a how-to, but anyway, this is Banamine. This is the generic Flunixin, and I like to have, it comes in like a 100cc vial or 100 milliliter vial, and is almost out. There's probably like 30 cc's left of it, so I got another bottle of it the other day when we were at the vet. But you want to just make sure it is a multi-use vial, meaning that you use it even after you pierce the top. So the top of these things are, it's like a rubberized cork that reseals itself after you've pierced it. So as long as you keep it at room temperature, I keep this inside the house, store it at room temperature in a cool, dark place, it'll be fine. Don't store it out in your barn where it gets 100 degrees and then freezing. Because one of these lasts me at least a year, usually. So we're going to give Buck 10 cc's or 10 milliliters. So this is actually a 12 milliliter syringe. So you always want to clean your stopper with alcohol really well. Scrub it really good. And then I like to prepare this inside the house as well and not in the barn where it's dusty and gross. Just keep it as clean as possible. So a little pro tip is, I don't know if you can get these at the store, I actually get them at work. This is a blunt tipped syringe. It is strictly for filling syringes with medication. It is an 18 gauge. So a gauge, actually the higher the number, the smaller the needle. So an 18 gauge is larger than like a 22 gauge or a 25 gauge. So an 18 gauge is a pretty large size diameter. It's a pretty big needle. I'll show you it in a second. So I use that to drop my medication. It's easier to drop medications, especially thicker medications like some of the hyaluronic acids, in a large bore is what you call it, a large bore needle. So you always want to make sure, I've already opened this already, but you want to make sure all of your equipment is sterile. I just opened it so it'd be easier to film. But you want to make sure it's not opened and that it's sterile. So I don't want to be touching the end of this tip. I want it to remain sterile. So what I'm going to do is also with this, I don't want to be touching the tip of this thing. I want it to remain sterile. So I'm going to be very careful when I open it to not lay this anywhere, not touch it to anything. So as you can see, what I do is peel this away, make sure it's not touching anything, and then connect. And then you can set it down on stuff because everything is already connected. So as you can see, again, I don't want to be, this is going to go into the medication. I don't want to lay it down and have it touch anything nasty or dirty. It's not sharp enough to actually give IV. It is only to drop the medication. It is a large bore needle. And then put your injection needle on, which is going to be this needle right here, on afterwards. You have a sharper needle to give your injection. Piercing this little rubber stopper will actually dull your needle. So if you do it with the needle you're actually going to inject with, you're going to have a duller needle. So horses really don't seem to care either way, but I do it anyway, good general practice, and it's easy for me to get these needles. So it's nicer for people at least. So if you are a nurse or studying to become a nurse, then that's nice to do. So anyway, we've cleaned our top, we've let it dry. I've got a clean sterile needle on a clean sterile syringe. So if this were a brand new vial, you could actually draw in, like we're going to get 10 cc's, so I could draw in 5 cc's of air. And you want to stab it right into the center where the little circle is. Stab it right into the center. And you could actually push the air in and it'll make a force to draw. You can see how, so push the air in, it'll make a force to actually draw out, and it's easier to get a large volume into your syringe. But this bottle has been used a lot, so it's kind of lost its vacuum, so that doesn't really matter. But you want to hold it upside down, make sure it is in the solution, the tip of the needle in the solution. If you're up in the air, you're just going to be drawing air into your needle. So you just draw up the amount you want, try to get all the air bubbles out. So we have drawn up 10 cc's. I'm going to take it back out, and I'm going to put this back on my needle, and I'm going to just tap it, or you can bang it on the edge of something, and you can see there's the air bubble at the top, and then you can just kind of squirt it to where there's no more air. So the way you read these is, well, I didn't actually get quite 10 cc's yet. But the way you read it is, see there's a cone inside of the plunger. You don't read it where the tip of the cone is, you read it where the base of the cone is. So this actually is a little less than 9 cc's. So I'll stick it back in there and drop some more. You don't have to watch all that. But anyway, so now that I've drawn up my medication, I'm going to be extra careful to also keep this clean and sterile. So the way these typically come is you pop it loose like that, and I want to be careful. I'm not going to touch this to anything, and I'm not going to touch this to anything, and I'm not going to use this blunt tip anymore, so I don't have to be careful with that. And then I'm going to connect these together, and now I can sit it down. And then I also had the vet do a fecal on Buck, and his was a little high. It was 1200, and she says that they like it to be under 500, preferably. So she said to get something that would cover tapeworms as well, which this Prasquinatal covers tapeworms. So Equimax, Quest Plus, and Ivermectin Gold are 3 of the ones that cover tapeworm. You want to be extra careful that you don't give them more than they need. So I know for a fact Moon weighs 1,110 pounds because we had him weighed at the vet when he went down to Auburn for the ophthalmologist in December. So he'll get a whole one. But Comet probably weighs about 1,000, and then Buck probably weighs, I don't think they weighed him there, but I think he probably weighs 1,000 or less. So all these syringes cover 1,200 pounds. It actually says 13. This one actually covers 1,320. So you want to be careful not to give them a ton more than they need. So I wouldn't give the little 300 to 500 pound pony an entire one of these, because he's more likely to have a bad reaction from it. So I actually only got 3. So Moon will get a whole one. Buck and Comet will get up to this 1,000 mark one, and then I'll combine the rest, which will be 300 on both, and give that to the pony. So the pony will get a 600 pound dose. So that's how I do that. So she said that I probably don't have to worry about getting a fecal on the other boys, that they look healthy and good. And Buck looks healthy and good. But the people that he came from, they're a real cowboy outfit, and they had a lot of cows. So I wouldn't be surprised if they wormed him with cow wormer. And they said they wormed him with ivermectin back in December. So that's probably why he has a higher fecal count. She said you can repeat with just plain ivermectin again in 2 weeks. And as long as he doesn't lose weight or his coat get dull and that kind of thing, then he's probably fine. You won't have to get a re-fecal on him. It's not too terribly high, but it is, you know, high enough to probably do a double dose on him. So what I typically do with worming is I rotate. So in the spring and the fall, I do something that covers tapeworms. And then in the summer and the winter, I do either ivermectin or Strongid, or there's a anthalcide and a few others that I rotate through the pack. And I always rotate which ones I do that cover tapeworm. So in the fall, I won't use Equimax. I'll do Zymectrin Gold or the Plus Plus. So, oh, hey, Buck. So he's done good in his little paddock all day. He got, I know, he's all lonely. He has one more night to stay in here, and then he can go out with the boys tomorrow. To give an IV shot to a horse, you want to locate the jugular groove in the neck. It's just that groove that runs on the underside of their neck. And to find the vein, you just kind of press or occlude that area, and the vein will actually distend. If you look above my thumb, you can kind of see where the soft tissue sort of bulges out. That is actually their jugular vein. So that's the area that you're aiming for, and you want to inject bevel up, meaning that the hole of the needle is facing towards you and the pointiest part of the needle is against the horse's skin, and you inject to the direction of their head. So you inject upwards, not downwards. And I always clean with alcohol. I know a lot of vets don't, they just kind of do it, but the nurse and me can't not clean with alcohol, so I always clean the area with alcohol beforehand. And so you'll see me occlude the vein again to find the location and make it easier to get, and then I'm going to aspirate back or draw back and make sure I'm in the vein. So when you draw back, you should get a flash of blood like so, and then inject very slowly. Don't just slam the medication in. Inject it slowly. If you have to count to 3, count to 3. Alright, so we're going to clean all the blood off his legs. The site looks pretty good. A little bit of swelling. Nothing too drastic. So I'm not going to tie him because I'm not exactly sure if he's going to be a big fan about this. So I don't want him pulling back. And obviously, he's not that big of a fan about it. Ho. Look at the ho. Good boy. So, just gonna start low. Close off his leg really good. And we'll work our way up. I don't know if he's gonna let me get soaked up in there. He's guarding it pretty well. And I don't really feel like getting kicked in the face. Alright, I've been at it for almost 15 minutes now. He actually seems to be pretty calm about it. I don't know if it feels good, but... Oh, sorry, Buck. I'm sorry. That was my fault. The swelling seems to already have calmed down. It's been about 20 minutes since I gave that Banamine and cold hosing for 15. So, site looks clean. There's still drainage, which is what they wanted. Those little things sticking out is just part of the tissue there. It's normal. That's what it's supposed to look like. And your good boy gets lots of cookies. Oh no. He's such a good little boy.